So I was real lucky. I don't know what happened to the people behind me when that blast occurred.
All of a sudden, it was like bang, 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 like bullet shots. And then all of a sudden, 3 tremendous explosions. And everything started coming down.
It's strange, the hallways in the center of the floor were devastated. Not so much the outside office areas.
It was funny because Tower Wall was coming down from the interior on us.
Yeah.
You know, so a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people, you know, it just didn't puff. It was coming down. It was coming from the interior. It trapped us on the 3rd floor, and we were like, this thing is definitely coming down, man. Because, you know, the inside structure was just disintegrated.
And all of a sudden, we heard an explosion. It was a huge explosion that came from under my feet, meaning that it came from the sub-levels between B2 and B3. And then there was a huge explosion at the top of the building. You could hear the difference from the bottom and all the way through the top. The one from the top, which was actually seconds after, was heard very far away. The one at the basement was pretty loud, and you felt your actual feet moving with the floor. The tremor that is sent through the floors, that the walls cracked and the false ceiling totally collapsed. And that's when a person named Felipe David came running into our office saying, explosion, explosion, explosion. And when I saw him, he has all his skin pulled from under his armpits and missing pieces on his face.
Engineer Mike Pecoraro in the 6th sub-basement found the parking garage and machine shop reduced to rubble. Firefighter Lou Caccioli told People magazine that as he and others evacuated workers, bombs were going off inside the building. Explosions stalled elevators and filled entire floors with smoke and debris.
An eyewitness who said there was an explosion on floor 7-8. 7-8. Dispatch, we've just had another explosion.
Warren Street because of the secondary explosion. We've got numerous people covered with dust from the secondary explosion.
We got another explosion on the tower, 1013. Tower 2 has had a major explosion and what appears to be a complete collapse surrounding the entire area. Who's involved in the secondary explosion?
William Rodriguez, helping the firefighters, reports blasts within the North Tower well before it fell.
As I went up, I remember listening to small explosions on the upper floors, and these small explosions were not coming from the area of the impact. It was coming from lower floors.
And when the second plane hit the South Tower,
we heard boom. When we heard boom, inside our building, the North Tower, we heard pa 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 pa. And on the security radio, we heard, we lost 65, meaning the 65th floor collapsed. And as we went down the stairwells, you could hear the actual collapsing inside the buildings. You heard rumble, you heard the cracking of the walls, I mean pieces falling right next to us of the actual building.
watch the camera shake on its tripod as a large energy source rocks the ground. 9 seconds later, the North Tower falls.
I heard like an explosion and then a cracking type of noise. And then it sounded like a freight train, rumbling and picking up speed. I looked up, and I saw it coming down.
This is as close as we can get to the base of the World Trade Center. You can see the firemen assembled here, the police officers, FBI agents, and you can see the two towers. A huge explosion now raining debris on all of us.
And I don't think our reaction was that the buildings would fall, and that's why we maintained under the pedestrian overpass, which is only about 100, maybe 150 yards from the first building.
I don't think anybody was thinking the buildings might fall. We'd been told that these buildings were tested for 707 and all of that. I mean, good grief, of course we didn't think it was going to fall. The fire trucks and the cops were right under there. As that thing started to collapse,
It was, when it began to come down, as you've heard Commissioner Safer indicate, the bomb squad was in, fire personnel, ambulance personnel had entered. 15 minutes after they made their entry, we heard a boom. I don't know if that was the infrastructure that was going or another explosion, and we looked up, and it, you know, I can't even describe it. It's not even like a movie. It was so surreal. It just came towering towards us.
no one can go in to get the people out. There's small explosions still going on. We just heard another explosion.
Go again. Another one. Hours after the attack, many smaller explosions rumbled through downtown.
You have 2 110-story office buildings. You don't find a desk. You don't find a chair. You don't find a telephone, a computer. The biggest piece of a telephone I found was half of the keypad, and it was about this big.
But most interesting in the mix, they are looking, they think, at specks of steel that used to be beams and elevators, marble from the lobby floor and facings. So what were once the strongest architectural elements in the 2 towers were pulverized, large portions turned into clouds like this one.
I've heard about those sonic booms, and I got up to my window. I live in Battery Park City, right next to the Twin Towers. I live in Battery Park City, right next to the Twin Towers. I live in Battery Park City, right next to the Twin Towers.
But these 2 buildings are essentially cities in and of themselves. I mean,
and I looked up, and the side of the World Trade, Trade Center exploded right when I looked up, and at that point, debris started falling. I couldn't believe what I was watching.
Can you hear anything from your position right now? Ambulances, sirens? Hear anything from your position right now? Ambulances, sirens?
Absolutely.
Can you see any actual people in that area who may have been hit by any of this debris or were not able to get out of the way? Can you see any crowds that may be too close to where they should be? Anything like that?
No, I don't think so, and it's not a highly trafficked area at the base of the World Trade Center, so that's one fortunate thing.
Gene, right now we're continuing to look at pictures of this devastating scene. According to...
There has just been a huge explosion. We can see a billowing smoke rising, and I'll tell you that I can't see that second tower, but there was a cascade of sparks and fire.
Peter, it's Don Daly down here. I'm 4 blocks north of the World Trade Center. The second building that was hit by the plane has just completely collapsed. The entire building has just collapsed, as if a demolition team set off. When you see the old demolitions of these old buildings, it folded down on itself, and it is not there anymore.
That should be it.
It has completely collapsed.
The whole side has collapsed?
The whole building has collapsed.
The whole building has collapsed?
The building has collapsed.
Appearing to fall away from the rest of the building. Can we go to the tape now? Here we go, right here. This is, I mean, when you look at it, the building has collapsed. That tower just came down.
Let's go to Bob Bazell, who was at St. Vincent's Hospital. Bob, what's going on there? What can you tell us?
Tell me what you saw.
Well, on the corner of Duane and West Broadway, walking down towards the Twin Towers, and it just collapsed. It looks like it looks sort of like the building just demolished. Smoke, clouds, smoke, clouds of smoke everywhere.
Minna?
Yes, hi, Matt.
Tell me what you saw.
Well, on the corner of Duane and West Broadway, walking down towards the Twin Towers, and it just collapsed. It looks like it looks sort of like the building just demolished. Smoke, clouds, smoke, clouds of smoke everywhere. People running towards me. I was going towards the Twin Towers. People were going away from the tower.
I saw a live picture of what seemed to be a portion of the building falling away from the World Trade Center. I saw a live picture of what seemed to be a portion of the building falling away from the World Trade Center.
And you can see the 2 towers, a huge explosion now raining debris on all of us. We better get out of the way.
Even just on a plain windy day, that this material blew through in a way that was really unimaginable. It was truly frightening. It continued to rain down for several minutes, as you can see there, and the winds just whipped through these corridors for several minutes.